Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to my college football week 5 top 25. Not a whole lot to say before other than like and subscribe would help. A comment always helps. Let's get straight into this. So if you watched my last video, you'll know I made a major change to like the top 2 in specific. I'm sticking by it this week. Michigan is my number 1 team right now. I know they're yet to play anybody, but to be honest, this team's not going to play anybody until the final 3 weeks of football. So this team will become the number 1 team inevitably, unless Georgia doesn't lose, which I find impossible. Michigan, they look way more solid than Georgia. Let's be real. Georgia and Michigan are both playing Pee Wee schedules. They're not playing anybody. But Michigan is annihilating their teams where Georgia has been struggling. They struggled against South Carolina and at Auburn. Michigan has killed every single opponent. Georgia, or let's just talk about Michigan for a bit. Michigan, their offense looks solid. I don't know, like they stick at this 30-point range, but I feel like they could do more damage if they wanted to. Like that's just what I feel like. They could do way more damage if they need it, if they find it necessary, but they don't really need to put down a whole bunch of points to make a statement victory because their defense has held every single team to either 7 or under 7 points. So their defense, I know they haven't played anybody, looks very solid. Their defense looks very solid. Their offense, J.J. McCarthy has been very solid except for in the Bowling Green game. I guess he just had a bad game. But Bowling Green ended up going into Georgia Tech and kicking the shit out of them. So maybe Bowling Green isn't the worst of teams, but still, it's not good to throw 3 picks against Bowling Green. But every other game, he has looked very solid. Now let's talk about Georgia, who I've still got at number 2. And I almost moved down, but I couldn't quite do it. Georgia, this past week, just survived Auburn. Auburn is not a good team. Specifically on the offensive side of things. Their defense is their strong part for Auburn. Their defense is, I'd say, like decent, but the way this game played out did not go to how I expected it to. If anything, I expected this game to be lower scoring, with Georgia winning by like 2 possessions because Auburn's offense sucks. That was not the case. Auburn ran the ball all over the place on Georgia. They hardly threw the ball because they don't have a good offense. They just ran it. They managed to put down 20 points on the Georgia defense, whereas the Georgia offense only responded with 27 in a game they were down the whole time, had to pull away at the end, and what basically lost the game for Auburn? Their offense. Their offense stunk it, and they lost. There was no reason for this game to be close if you're the number 1 team being Georgia. Like, you need to be handling these teams. This isn't the only example of a game Georgia has struggled in. They also struggled against South Carolina, who South Carolina barely beat Mississippi State in a shootout, got killed by North Carolina, and they just lost to Tennessee. I think they got beat up pretty good by Tennessee as well. South Carolina's not a good team, and yet they were up 14-3 going into halftime. It was just Georgia's pass defense that was able to stop South Carolina's heavy pass offense because South Carolina can't run the ball. So this Georgia team, they have to play Kentucky this weekend. I think they're losing their number 1 spot. I think they're getting shown up on their home turf. I think this year will be. This is not Georgia's 3rd year. There will be no 3-time national championship winner for Georgia. Number 3, I got FSU. They didn't really play anybody. I was really determining. I was like, I should move Texas up to number 3. But I didn't quite do it because the thing that people forget is who Florida State has ended up playing. I know Texas has played and beat Alabama, but Florida State has beaten 2 very solid opponents as well, just as well as Texas has. Florida State, they killed LSU. They slaughtered them. It wasn't even close. It was close at halftime, but from that point on, it was all Florida State. And the final score is even closer than it should have been. It was like 45-17. That was the furthest the game got away. And then they traveled into Clemson, into Death Valley, and won for the first time since 2014 against a very solid Clemson team. I know we all hated on Clemson at the start of the year, and I was even calling them overrated, but hey, this team is still solid defensively. I stuck by my word. I didn't think they have the best offense, but they have a really good defense. Stuck by that. Florida State managed to get out of Clemson with the win. That's 2 very solid wins for Florida State that have just gone under the radar. I think in the AP polls, they're number 5, which is insane. Texas, yes, they traveled into Alabama and won. Don't get me wrong. It's a very solid win and almost moved Texas up to number 3 for me. But the problem is that's their only really solid win. One may say Kansas, but 1, they got to host Kansas, and 2, Kansas's starting quarterback was out. Their backup was in Jason Bean, who I think he completed like 9 passes or something like that. One of them was a deep bomb for a touchdown, his only touchdown. That was it. Without that pass, he did awful. So to me, yes, Texas looks like a very solid team. Don't get me wrong. It's just I feel like Florida State is just kind of getting disrespected. Like, they killed LSU. They killed them. They beat Clemson on the road, one of the hardest environments to play in. I knew that game was going to be close. I even thought Clemson might win it. But they moved them under Ohio State and Texas. Texas is more reasonable, but Ohio State is not. Number 4, I got Texas, of course. Already kind of explained this team. Now, this team could definitely, I'd say they could shoot up to number 1 after this week, depending on how they play Oklahoma. They will definitely surpass Georgia. I think Georgia, after this week, falls down to they'll probably bump them down to like number 8 or something because they love them. But Texas could definitely jump up to number 1. It might be Michigan number 1. That's all saying if Texas beats Oklahoma. They've got a very important matchup this week, and it's going to be a very exciting and fun game. I'm so excited for this week of college football. But Texas, they have done nothing but dominate, even on the road at the Crimson Tide. They've done nothing but dominate. Their offense is so solid, their defense is so solid. Their offense is pretty good. I'm still I'm still questionable on Texas's offense because they take forever to get started is the thing. They normally they play close games in the first half, and then it's like not even like the first half, the first 3 quarters, and then that fourth quarter, man, they just typically take off or usually take off. So I like this Texas team a lot. They could definitely be number 1 right now. I'm kind of waiting to move them up. That's also kind of why I didn't push them over Florida State because they've got to play Oklahoma this week. So this team, with all the reasoning behind it, there's no reason to really move them up ahead because they have to play Oklahoma. If they win that, they'll be moving ahead anyways. If they lose that, they will be staying under. Number 5, I got Ohio State. Ohio State didn't play anybody, so they kind of just move up by default. They beat Notre Dame. We know that. They have a very solid defense, a pretty questionable offense, but they have a very, very solid defense. But they moved up during a bye week. How could that be possible? Well, because my number 6 or my original number 5 team has fallen. Washington did not impress me against U of A. I just felt like Washington struggled. Now, right now, what is definitely clear to me is that home field advantage is a major, major, major factor in a lot of these games. And if a team has to play on the road, you can count on it to be closer than you expect it to be. Michael Penix still had a great game going 30 for 40, 363 yards, but it was the quarterback for U of A that I was more impressed with. He went 27 for 39, 232 yards, 3 touchdowns, and an interception. Keep in mind, Michael Penix Jr., he didn't throw a touchdown this game. I think the first game he hasn't thrown a touchdown, something like that. First game this year, maybe. I'm not sure. But the quarterback for U of A, although the stats, he didn't complete 12 passes and he threw a pick, might be a little bit of a downside. He still threw for 232 yards and 3 touchdowns, which was the 3 touchdowns they ended up scoring in the end. So I don't know what to take from this, whether U of A, I think U of A might stick with this quarterback because De Laura was awful, but now he's hurt and this guy's in and he just brought them to a 7-point game against Washington. So maybe U of A is just not that bad of a team. They just had the wrong quarterback or something. Maybe they're not that bad of a team, but Washington definitely didn't live up to what people were saying they were, what I was saying they were, in fact. Washington played a closer one, so I feel like I got to dock them points. It definitely did not impress me, and after all, Ohio State did beat Notre Dame. 7, I got Penn State. Penn State has done nothing but take care of business. I just got kicked out of ESPN because I clicked on a Monopoly Go ad. So Penn State has done nothing but dominate their opponents. That's because they haven't played anybody. Their one, I guess you could maybe say, like their best win, we'll say their best win, is not against Iowa. Yes, they shut them out, but Iowa does, no. We know Iowa's not good. I'd say their best win was against West Virginia, because right now West Virginia is they're 4-1. They're 4-1 with a victory at TCU. I think TCU got like 2 field goals blocked or something like that, but still West Virginia beat Texas Tech, which still in my eyes is a good win. And now they beat TCU. Like West Virginia's in 3rd place right now for the Big 12, because of course you got Texas and Oklahoma, who are the obvious 1 and 2, but I think West Virginia sits at number 3, and it looks like this thing agrees with me. It looks like the ESPN app agrees with me, but that's also because Kansas State didn't play anybody. Kansas would have been my number 3, but they lost to Texas, so they have to drop down. BYU lost to Kansas, so they have to drop down. Kansas State, to me, just doesn't look like that good of a football team. They get lucky. They have to go play at Oklahoma State, so that should be a victory. They'll probably get put back into the rankings, which will be annoying. But then they have to go play at Texas Tech, and yeah, good luck, Kansas State. Good luck. So Penn State, with that being said, if West Virginia finishes 3rd or is like the 3rd team in the Big 12, Penn State beat them 38-15. I feel like this Penn State team is very slept on. Not only do they have the, in my eyes, impressive win against West Virginia, they also shut out Iowa 31-0. They've done nothing but dominate. Their team looks very solid. Aller is a great quarterback. They've got 2 solid running backs and a fantastic wide receiver. K. Lambert Smith. Yeah, he's great. He's the leading receiver every single game. They get a bye this week, then they go play UMass next week, but then the big one is against Ohio State. I don't know if they'll be able to win it. I don't think they'll be able to win it, but until then, they will stay at number 7 for me. Number 8, Oregon. We got Oregon. Sorry, I got distracted. Dog is barking at the door. So Oregon, this team, I don't remember who said it. They were like, Oregon was on upset alert in the first half. They went into the second quarter down 3-0, and then Stanford kicked another 53-yard field goal. They kicked a 53-yard field goal to go up 6-0. But from that point on, Oregon dominated, holding Stanford to 0 points the rest of the game and putting down 42. Honestly, I think Oregon is just being a respectable team by not killing their opponents, right? Yes, they got off to a slow start. That is a fact. But 1, they're on the road, so it's always going to be a difficult environment. And 2, they could kill this team if they wanted to. They could easily whip out all their plays and play the strongest game they ever played and destroy this team. They could drop 100 on this team if they wanted to. Bo Nix was 27 for 32, 290 yards, and 4 touchdowns. He missed 5 passes. Bucky Irving was 13 carries for 88 yards and a touchdown. Yeah, Oregon didn't struggle. This team is extremely slept on. This team right now looks like, even though I have them ranked under Washington still, I think this team stands the best chance at winning the Pac-12. It's just the problem is they have to go play at Washington, which could be a very difficult game. If Oregon wins that, they're the number 1 team to win the Pac-12 championship. It's too obvious. Number 9, I got USC. I don't want to dock USC points for struggling against Colorado. Well, that's the thing, is they didn't struggle with Colorado. The final score is a lot closer than it really was. Like, there was a time where USC was up 34-7. Like, they were up 34-7. It was just Colorado's attempt to make a comeback. I don't remember. Caleb Williams must have thrown his interception at like the goal line or something, because USC was like right down there on their side of the field, and then they just didn't score points, and Colorado scored. So it came down to a onside kick. I didn't think it was going to be a comeback. I saw the score was getting interesting and whatnot, but I didn't think it was going to be a comeback. Caleb Williams was still 30 for 40, 403 yards, and 6 touchdowns and an interception. I don't know if I said it in a video, I was like hating on the people for going crazy about Caleb Williams' performance because it was like Colorado's defense and whatnot. That sucks, but I kind of just regret what I said, if I even ended up saying it, because Caleb Williams still had a fantastic game. If Michael Penix put up those stats against U of A, I would not be docking him anything. I'm just doing it because it's Caleb Williams, and I like Michael Penix more, and I hate that he's in the Heisman race because he already won it. But he did have a very, 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 very impressive game. Shedeur Sanders, I'd say he more padded his stats with the comeback. He was 30 for 45, 371 yards, 4 touchdowns, and an interception. So still, he's playing like a great quarterback against shitty defenses, which should give him credit. I'm not going to dock him points either. It's just a lot of it came from a fantasy comeback, which is hard to interpret because it's hard to put into like what teams. It's like you can't. I don't want to like be like, well, USC played in a close game because they were up 34-7. Like they could have put this game away if they just went full throttle the whole way through and dropped like 70 points on them. If they continued at the pace, I guarantee you, going into the half, they slowed down. It's exactly what Oregon did. Oregon slowed down. It's just Oregon's defense is way better than USC's. So. Or USC definitely could have dropped way more points on this team, in my opinion. But, yeah, let's go ahead and move on. Number 10, we got Notre Dame. And the heartbreaking, most saddening loss I've ever seen in college football, ever witnessed. I was rooting for Duke in this because Duke was actually looking like they were going to win. And I was like, dude, if Duke wins, they're going to be like in the top 10. I would love to see this. But they ended up, it was a 4th and 16. Sam Hartman somehow runs for it. And then, like, I think the very next play, they run the ball up the middle and score a touchdown and then a 2-point conversion. And then Duke gets the ball and he gets strip sacked trying to move up in the pocket. And he gets, like, I don't think it's a season-ending injury, but it definitely looked like it. And just like that, Duke went from, oh my goodness, we are going to win this game, to our season's over. Like, you lost this game and your quarterback's hurt. It was so devastating, so sad. I don't know how to feel about Riley Leonard because it's like he had a great rushing game. He 18 carries for 88 yards, but he was 12 for 27, 134 yards, a touchdown, but an interception. Like, he completed 12 of his 27 passes, and one of those passes was a pick. So it's like, I know Notre Dame's defense is sick, but, like, I don't know, man. It's just I'm really split opinion right now. I do think he is, like, amazing for the program and is definitely changing things, but these are definitely two very solid defenses. Sam Hartman was only 15 for 30, 222 yards, and no touchdowns, no picks. He was good, but, man, he was only 50% on his completions. Audric Estime was where they were the best. I'd say it was 18 carries, 81 yards, and 2 touchdowns, and he got the touchdown to seal the deal. And Sam Hartman also threw a 2-point conversion as well. So Notre Dame moves up because of an impressive win against a solid defense, but I didn't really move them up a whole bunch. I don't know where they went up in the rankings. I think they only went up like 2 spots. No, they're at number 10 as well. So, yeah, the committee agrees. I don't think this team should go up a whole bunch because they kind of pulled that one out of their ass. But, yeah, and they also have a loss. Now we're on to our middle section. I've got Bama at number 11. Bama, this might be the last time we see them this highly ranked because they've got to play A&M this week at A&M. Give me A&M. The only reason I have Alabama at number 11 right now is because I moved the specific team down a couple spots. Just because I realized I kind of had them a little overhyped. Maybe not, but a little too overhyped. And Bama has the impressive win, or the more impressive win of against Ole Miss. That's kind of also why I moved them up. I feel like they should get some credit, and I guess the committee agrees with me. They should get some credit for beating Ole Miss as easily as they did, because Ole Miss just beat LSU in a shootout, yes, but they still beat LSU, which means they're not the worst of teams. So Alabama holding them to just 10 points in a game they just in a shootout they just won definitely shows that Alabama has a very solid defense and a decent offense. So let Alabama be number 11. Number 12, I got Washington State. This was the team that I had at number 10 that I moved down a little bit. Just because Washington State didn't play anybody. They had a bye week. This week they've got to go play at UCLA, which, can you believe this shit? They are literally, UCLA is favored over Washington State. Like, Washington State's not even number 13. I don't think the committee thinks Washington State's actually that good of a team. But dude, Washington State wins this. If they win this one against UCLA, it does frighten me that they have UCLA favored. But if they win this one, they get U of A at Washington State the week after. But then they have to go play at Oregon. That's going to be probably a pretty yucky game. Then they're at ASU, easy win. Host Stanford, easy win. At Cal, easy win. Host Colorado, easy win. And then they're at Washington. This Oregon team, they won the game. They won one of the 3 games that they need to win. This could very well be a 2-loss Washington State team. If they beat UCLA, then they're fat chilling. I don't think Colorado is going to go into Washington State and win. The crowd's going to be too big. They got the they struck gold. They got the 4 easiest teams in the Pac-12 on their schedule: U of A, ASU, Stanford, and Cal. And that's just amazing. This team could finish off in the top 10. They've got to finish off the year. Washington State at Washington is going to be such a good game. There's going to be so many emotions. It's going to be such a good game. I'm so excited for that one. But yeah, I got Washington State moving down 2 spots from last week. They got to play UCLA. I think they kill them, but we never know. Number 13, I got OU. This is what I was struggling with yesterday. I could not figure out. It feels like all these teams like moved up a spot. I could not figure out what team I was missing. Because on here, OU is 12. I just figured it out. This was the exact same problem I faced last time. I was like, how is OU 13? I'm missing a team. I just swap OU and Washington State. That's all. Sorry about that. I was using my brain, trying to get it to work. OU plays Texas this week, and this will be probably the last time we see this team this highly ranked, because, they will definitely, I believe, play a good game against Texas, but it's probably going to be a loss for Oklahoma. So this will probably be the last time you see them this high. Maybe actually not. I'm saying that they probably win the rest of their schedule and go a 1-loss team. I'd say if Kansas gets Jalen Daniels back by the Oklahoma-Kansas game, that will be their most likely loss. They get to host West Virginia, so yeah. I guess maybe at BYU there could be some potential upset possibilities there, but I don't know. So I got Oklahoma at 13. They killed Iowa State. There's no reason they shouldn't be highly ranked. Oregon State at 14. I've got this team over North Carolina in the normal polls because I feel like, how are they going to just move up? They were what, like number 20 or something like that? Let's see. They were number 19, and they beat the number 10 team in the country, Utah. And again, they were a 21-zip the whole way through, like almost the whole way through. They led that shit the whole way. And they only moved up 4 spots. I know Utah's without their starting quarterback and has a helpless offense without him, but that Utah defense is still very solid, man. They allowed 21 points, which means there's life for Oregon State's offense. I believe it was just Oregon State's running game, but if that's the case, Oregon State's running game is real. Yeah, 16 carries, 65 yards, and a touchdown. So it really, it was, but it wasn't their running game. 16 carries for 65 yards is not the best thing ever, but still does a lot of damage. DJ was 14 for 25, 204 yards, a touchdown, but a pick. it was down to like the last 5 minutes when Utah finally scored a touchdown. Utah's offense is just helpless. Honestly, if Cam Rising was there, this game probably would have been like 21-21 going to overtime or something like that, or one of the teams walking off a field goal. But they don't have their quarterback yet. It sucks that Utah has to just suffer right now without him, because they'd be a very good team, dude. They would be so good right now. Number 15, I got Ole Miss. Ole Miss wins. They win a very surprising match. I was not ready for this game to be as high scoring as it was, man. Like, going into halftime, the score was 28-31. So the fact that it wasn't even higher scoring was kind of scary. The thing, oh my God, I'm stuttering so much. The thing that annoyed me about Ole Miss and why I don't want to preach on their name is because they were up 28-14 and they let LSU bring it back to 3 points, and then they let LSU just take the lead from there. In the second half, LSU goes up 35-31. Then Ole Miss kicks a field goal to cut it to 1 point. And then LSU scores again. And then Ole Miss scores a touchdown, but they fail the 2-point conversion. Then LSU goes up another touchdown. LSU's up 49-40. They end up scoring a touchdown to cut it to a 2-point game. But LSU's offense folds at the worst time. Ole Miss gets the ball, and Ole Miss scores with little time left, and then the fans storm the field. Both quarterbacks had fantastic games, but I think it's just because the other team's defenses are not it. Jaden Daniels, he was 27 for 36, 414 yards, and 4 touchdowns. Jackson Dart was 26 for 39, 389 yards, and 4 touchdowns. Both quarterbacks very similar, except, of course, I don't get to see Jaden Daniels' rushing yards, which was probably a lot. The running back for LSU still had a pretty good game, Logan Diggs. He was 19 carries, 101 yards, and 2 touchdowns. However, it was the running back for Ole Miss where he went a little crazy. Quinshawn Judkins. He had 33 carries, 177 yards, and a touchdown. So this was like a non-defensive game. It didn't exist, which I found kind of surprising since Ole Miss only put up 10 points against Bama and only put up 37 points against Tulane. So this was kind of embarrassing for both teams, but still, Ole Miss, their offense is very, very, very good. It's just their defense is weak, which will get you into the top 15. Number 16, I got Miami. They ain't play nobody. They didn't play anybody this week, so they kind of just sit where they are. But I didn't quite have the faith to move UNC over them. UNC, they played, what's their face? They played, I don't think they played last week. Yeah, they didn't play last week either. But when they did play, they played Pitt, and they played Minnesota the week before that. Honestly, the more impressive wins for North Carolina's definitely would have been at the time at South Carolina and then Appalachian State, which Appalachian State is not that good of a team, but I'm not going to dock North Carolina anything for, struggling against Appalachian State. It's what Appalachian State does. They always go into the Power 5 ranked teams and play their best ball. But I will be like, yes, they killed South Carolina, but South Carolina's not that good of a team. Yes, they killed Minnesota, but Minnesota's not that good of a team. Yes, they killed Pitt, but Pitt's definitely not a good team. And they allowed Pitt to score 24 points. The thing that is sketchy for me about North Carolina is that Drake May is inconsistent, in my opinion. He throws, he'll be having a great game, and then he just throws a pick. In that Minnesota game, they were rolling, man. They were absolutely rolling, and then out of nowhere, Drake May, literally while the announcers were preaching so highly, he just throws a pick to the Gophers. The Gophers are not a good team, man. He threw 2 picks against the Gophers, and yeah. It's just not that good. In the South Carolina game, Drake May threw 2 picks as well. Let's see what in the Appalachian State game. He didn't throw a pick, but he also didn't throw a touchdown. It's I think he did the same thing in the Pitt game. When he doesn't throw a pick, no, he did throw a touchdown in the Pitt game, but just one. I don't know. They get to play Syracuse, which still isn't impressive. to me, this team will kind of be on my poop list, sitting a little low. I know I was kind of higher on this team, but now I'm kind of lower. This team's going to sit on my poop list until they host Miami. If they can win that, then yeah, this team's for real. Duke at number 18. I think this team has a sick defense, one of the best defenses in the league, but I'm just not too high on Riley Leonard. A lot of people were like, wow, I wasn't expecting him to be such a good quarterback, but his passing stats weren't the best. He definitely he's a great runner, but his passing is just not the best. And that's definitely going to hurt. Now, I know I'm taking this from the Notre Dame game, and Notre Dame's got a very good defense, but yeah, I don't know. I'm not too sure about Riley Leonard, as well as he's hurt now. So it's like he probably won't be back for about a week or two. Not sure. They said it wasn't season ending. It definitely looked season ending. I cringed when I saw the tackle. So yeah, this is where I got him. I'm not gonna. They got put down to 18. I think they deserve to be over Utah. Just like this team, number 19, Kentucky. Kentucky gets to play. Oh man, they get to play Georgia. Georgia's in for a rude awakening. And guess what? Georgia's favored by 15 points, dude. Give me Kentucky. I'm betting on that game. You best believe it. Devin Leary hasn't been the best quarterback. He's been nowhere near decent either. He's 82 for 142 on the season, 1,129 yards, 10 touchdowns, and 5 picks. Carson Beck's playing better than him. I know Kentucky's had better competition, or I guess not. Well, yeah. Yes and no. Georgia hasn't played shit fuck, but neither really has Kentucky. At least Kentucky played Florida. Georgia hasn't played shit yet. But Carson Beck is 116 for 161, 1.497 K. I can't say like 1,000. I have to say 1.4. It's just like the way things are for me. 7 touchdowns and 2 interceptions. So he's definitely looking like the better quarterback right now. But the thing for Kentucky where they're strongest is their running back. What's his name? Ray Davis. Ray Davis is 76 carries, 594 yards, and 8 touchdowns, which like 280 of those came against Florida. The Georgia running back is 51 carries for 260 yards and 5 touchdowns. Remember, like Ray Davis's stats, like half of them were made up against Florida. And to me, Georgia's rush defense looks like their weak spot, and Kentucky is specializing in their rush offense. So I think Georgia's in for a rude awakening, as well as Kentucky's win annihilation over the supposed number 22 team in the country. Should push them above teams like Utah and whatnot. Definitely above Tennessee. I don't know why they're still ranked. Number 20, I got Utah. Utah, I do think they have a really good defense, and if they get Cam Rising back, I don't even know if they will this season at this point. I thought he would be back for the UCLA game. He's still not back. I don't know when they're going to get him back, if they even choose. They might, I don't know if they can just give him another year of eligibility for an injury, but I don't know, man. Utah without Cam Rising is so awful. Their defense is insanely good, but their offense is so bad, and it showed in the Oregon State game, so I got to put them down to number 20. They're just not a competitive team right now against any ranked teams. 21, I got Mizzou. Mizzou's in for a rude awakening this week. They've got to play LSU. LSU's only favored by 5.5. These are two pretty solid offenses with, I'd say, probably weaker defenses. Missouri's games have consisted of higher scoring finals. The only game, wow, I did not know Missouri barely walked away with a win against MTSU. But Missouri beat Kansas State 27-30, a bit higher scoring. They beat Memphis 27-34, a bit higher scoring, and then they beat Vanderbilt 38-21, a bit higher scoring. So to me, this team is more on the offensive side of things than the defensive side of things, and LSU's definitely on the offensive side of things than the defensive side of things. The difference in this game is the talent. LSU's got such good talent on their teams. Missouri doesn't really have as much talent. They kind of look like the Oregon State of the SEC right now, except flip defensive to offensive. So I think they're just going to get beat up pretty good by LSU. It sucks because I really like seeing Missouri in the top 25. It's kind of funny. I don't think anybody thought this was gonna happen, but yeah, I think they're in for a bit of a rude awakening this week. Fresno State is undefeated still. I just have them moving up because certain teams moved off. I refuse to rank Tennessee. They're not good. Yeah, Fresno State, they're a very solid team. They could go undefeated in the season. They have to play at Wyoming, though. Fresno State's favored by 6 points. I think Wyoming wins this game. This will be their hardest game, I'd say. Then they host Boise State later in the season. I guess on the road at SJSU could hurt, and on the road at SDSU. This team is not my undefeated team in the Mountain West right now, though there's another team that I think goes undefeated. LSU, number 23, they lose to Ole Miss in a shootout. This team doesn't have a good defense. They have a very sick offense. So right now they've just got 2 losses, so they kind of got to sit at the bottom of the top 25. It's only fair. Number 24, here's my undefeated team. Air Force is running over their opponents. Their run game is where they're the strongest. Their quarterback is like actually good, all right? So hear me out. Let's go ahead and go all the way back to week 1. I'm going to talk for a bit about Air Force. Let's go back to week 1 for Air Force. Their quarterback threw 3 passes. 2 passes completed for 95 yards and a touchdown. Now, I know this is against Robert Morris, but still, within 3 passes, 3 passes, one of which was incomplete, he almost threw for 100 yards. He was also the lead rusher with 14 carries, 99 yards, and 2 touchdowns. This team, to me, looks like Navy, where they just do the rush offense. Their lowest scoring game in a game they still dominated in was against Sam Houston, who is not good. Air Force wins 13-3. It just looks like it was a very defensive game up until the 4th quarter where Air Force took off. Again, the quarterback threw 3 passes for Air Force. He was 1 for 3 and 14 yards. This time, the leading rusher was some guy named Owen Burke. I'm assuming they're running back. He was 18 carries, 75 yards, and a touchdown. So this team just looks like really heavy rush, right? Well, we'll get there. The quarterback in the Utah State game threw 4 passes. He completed 3 of them for 84 yards, and Owen Burke was 15 carries for 110 yards. They win 21-39. Now, we get to the SJSU game. Their quarterback was 2 for 2, 28 yards. Who's this guy? Emmanuel Mitchell. Not the same running back as last time. Emmanuel Mitchell was the leading rusher with 33 carries, 148 yards, and 3 touchdowns. So if I'm getting anything from this now, it's kind of like a triple read offense, still kind of like Navy, where there's multiple options. It's just this time, this guy led. But then we get to the SDSU game, San Diego State game, where the quarterback threw 6 or 7 passes, completed 6 of them for 189 yards and 2 touchdowns. And he was the leading running back or the leading rusher with 8 carries for 103 yards. He threw for almost 200 yards in just 7 passes, and he only completed 6 of them. And he threw 2 touchdowns within 2 of those passes. Air Force is extremely slept on. I know they're in a weaker conference, but dude, this team could go undefeated, man. They look so much better than everybody in their conference. They could go undefeated and seriously finish off like maybe number 6 in the country. I doubt they'll make the college football playoff, but hey, maybe in some world. Number 25, I got Maryland. If you watch my prediction video, I kind of got pissed off about how Louisville is ranked instead of Maryland because really, Maryland has killed their opponents, every single one of them, and Louisville has struggled. They've won by 3 points to NC State, they won by 5 points to Georgia Tech, and they won by 7 points to Indiana. And also, a fact that I pointed out was that Maryland killed Indiana. Louisville won by 7 points to Indiana. So I just think Maryland should be ranked instead of Louisville. Simply said, both teams are undefeated. I just think Maryland's a better team. So yeah, this is my top 25 for week 5. I hope you guys enjoyed. Again, a like and subscribe would help. A comment always helps. Thank you guys so much for 3,000 subs. This is awesome. And that's all for me. Adios.